Imagine a moment when a simple act of kindness collides with life's cruel rules. A young doctor, a helpless stray puppy, and a choice that would change everything. One brave decision, one heartbreaking consequence, and just when it felt like all hope was slipping away, fate stepped in with a miracle no one saw coming. Some stories stay with you forever, not because they were easy, but because they showed the true power of the human heart. This is the story of Dr. Emily Carter, a woman who risked everything for a tiny life that no one else would even notice. And in return, life gave her something bigger than she ever dreamed of. If you think small actions don't matter, just wait till you hear what happened next. Dr. Emily Carter had always believed that being a doctor wasn't just about treating illnesses. To her, it was never just about charts, medicines, or surgeries. It was about standing up for life itself, no matter whose life it was, whether it was a newborn baby drawing its first shaky breath, or a 90-year-old grandmother clinging to her final moments. Emily treated every patient the same way, with full heart, full respect, full compassion. But life, as she would soon find out, has its own brutal way of testing the values you think you hold so tightly. And sometimes, it happens when you least expect it. It was a cold, heavy evening in late November. One of those nights when the wind feels like knives against your skin, and the rain taps against your windows like impatient fingers. The kind of night when even the bravest souls rush home early, desperate for warmth. Inside Mercy General Hospital, it was a battlefield. The ER was packed. Car accidents from the slick roads, a fire downtown that sent a wave of burned victims, and the usual cases: broken bones, asthma attacks, elderly patients struggling with pneumonia. Chaos ruled the hallways. Doctors ran from one emergency to another. Nurses barked orders across rooms. Machines beeped endlessly in the background like a grim soundtrack. Emily was in the thick of it, 12 hours straight, barely stopping to breathe, hands moving automatically from one patient to the next, mind laser-focused, heart wide open. She had stitched up a young boy's forehead after a fall, calmed a sobbing woman whose husband suffered a minor heart attack, and comforted an elderly man who knew, deep down, that tonight might be his last. By the time the clock hit 11:30 p.m., Emily felt like a ghost of herself. Her feet throbbed inside her shoes, her back screamed for rest, and her eyes felt like sandpaper. But she didn't complain. This was the life she chose, and she loved it, even the ugly parts. When her shift finally ended, she pulled off her scrubs with trembling fingers, slipped into her jeans and old sweatshirt, and stumbled out into the freezing night. The parking lot was almost empty, puddles shining under the flickering streetlights. Her little blue Honda sat alone in the farthest corner, looking just as tired as she felt. She tossed her bag into the passenger seat and collapsed behind the wheel, letting her head fall back against the headrest for a moment. Just breathe, she told herself. Just get home. Hot shower, warm bed. Forget today ever happened. She started the engine and pulled out slowly, windshield wipers fighting the sheets of rain. The hospital's back exit was quieter, tucked away from the main road. She always took it at night. Less traffic, less hassle. As she crept forward, something caught the corner of her eye. Something small, moving. At first, she thought it was just trash, a plastic bag tumbling in the wind. But as her headlights swept over it, her heart stopped. It wasn't trash. It was alive. She slammed on the brakes, tires skidding slightly on the wet asphalt. Squinting through the rain, she saw it clearly now. A tiny puppy, no bigger than a loaf of bread, soaked to the bone. Its fur, what little of it wasn't plastered flat against its skin, was filthy and matted. Its ribs stuck out sharply under its wet coat, and its right front leg twisted at a sickening angle as it tried, and failed, to stand. It collapsed back into the mud with a soft, broken whimper. Emily's heart clenched so tightly it hurt. Instinct took over. She yanked the keys from the ignition, grabbed an old sweater from the back seat, the one she always meant to donate but never did, and ran out into the rain. The cold punched her in the face immediately, but she barely noticed. All she could see was the puppy. As she knelt down beside it, the little thing lifted its head weakly and looked at her. Those eyes. She would never forget those eyes. Wide, dark, glistening with terror and pain. Begging, pleading, saying in a language beyond words, "Please don't leave me." Emily's throat tightened. She gently slid her hands under its tiny body. It flinched, letting out a tiny squeak of fear, but didn't fight. It was too weak to even resist. Carefully, she wrapped it in the sweater, cocooning it as best she could against the rain and wind. She pressed the little bundle against her chest, feeling its rapid, shivering breaths against her heart. "You're okay now," she whispered. "I've got you. I'm not leaving you." Now came the real problem. Emily knew the hospital's rules. No animals allowed inside. No exceptions. It didn't matter if it was dying. It didn't matter if she was trying to help. The rules were clear, strict, and most importantly, punishable. Bringing an animal into any sterile medical facility could get her immediately suspended, even fired. And not just fired quietly. Her reputation could be destroyed. No other hospital would touch her after something like that. All her years of study, sacrifice, sleepless nights, gone. Just for trying to save a puppy. She stood there for a second, torn. Rain poured down her face, like tears she refused to cry. Her car was right there. She could drive the puppy to the nearest vet herself, but it was closed. The animal shelter, also closed. And the puppy needed help now. Its leg was bad, maybe broken. Leaving it alone here for even another hour could be a death sentence. It was freezing. The poor thing was half-starved, half-frozen. It wouldn't survive. Emily clutched the tiny body closer. No, she couldn't walk away, no matter what it cost her. Heart pounding, she glanced around. The back door of the hospital, the one rarely used, was just a few steps away. She could slip in, find an unused supply room, get basic first aid done, just enough to stabilize it until morning. Nobody had to know. Nobody had to get hurt. It was just one small, helpless life. One act of mercy. Wasn't that what being a doctor was supposed to be about? She took a deep breath and ran for the door. The metal handle was slick with rain, but she yanked it open and slipped inside. Warmth hit her instantly, and with it, the sharp, sterile smell of disinfectant. Footsteps echoed faintly down the hall, but no one was in sight. Good. Cradling the puppy against her chest, she hurried down the side hallway toward an old storage room. Inside, she flicked on the light and locked the door behind her. The puppy let out a soft whimper, burrowing deeper into her sweater. "It's okay, baby," she murmured. "You're safe." Working quickly, Emily grabbed supplies off the shelves. Sterile water, gauze, bandages, antiseptic. The puppy whimpered as she cleaned the mud and blood from its tiny body. Its leg was definitely broken. She could feel the unnatural bend, but it wasn't bleeding heavily. That was a good sign. She splinted the leg gently, whispering soft words of comfort the whole time. The puppy's breathing slowed. Its body stopped shaking. It closed its eyes and leaned into her touch. Trust. In the space of minutes, Emily had earned its trust, and in a way, it had earned hers too. As she worked, part of her mind screamed at her, "This is crazy, Emily. What if someone finds you? What if you lose everything over this?" But another voice, quieter, deeper, older, answered, "What's the point of saving lives if you turn your back when it matters most?" She had just finished wrapping the leg when she heard it. A heavy footstep outside the door, followed by a voice, sharp, angry. "Who's in there?" Emily's blood ran cold. Before she could even move, the door swung open, and there he was, Dr. Allen, the hospital administrator, the man who didn't believe in second chances, the man who valued rules over reasons. His eyes fell instantly on the scene. Emily, kneeling on the floor, cradling a filthy, broken puppy in her arms. Medical supplies scattered everywhere. His face turned a shade of red Emily didn't think was humanly possible. And in that frozen moment, she knew her life was about to change forever. Now, Emily Carter had always known the hospital rules like the back of her hand. Rules weren't just suggestions here. They were law, especially after the new administrator, Dr. Allen, had taken charge 6 months ago. No exceptions, no mercy, no gray areas. Animals inside the hospital, that was one of the biggest no-nos written in bold red ink on every policy sheet she had ever signed. Bringing even the healthiest pet inside could mean contamination. Bringing a stray puppy, injured, dirty, unpredictable, into a sterile medical facility, unthinkable and punishable, not just by suspension, by immediate termination, but standing there in the freezing rain, feeling the tiny heart of that broken puppy hammering against her chest. Emily had made a choice, a human choice, not a legal one, not a career-savvy one, a heart-first, soul-deep choice. Because how could she live with herself if she turned her back? How could she ever look in the mirror again, knowing she let an innocent creature die just because rules said so? Some moments in life force you to decide who you really are. And that night in the rain, Emily decided she wasn't a rule follower first. She was a doctor first, a protector first, a human being first. Carefully, shielding the puppy from the rain with her body, Emily slipped through the hospital's back door. It was quieter here, away from the main wards. A few maintenance carts sat abandoned in the hallway. Faint echoes of voices buzzed far in the distance, but no one was nearby. Heart pounding, Emily moved fast. She ducked into a small, unused supply room just a few doors down from the staff lounge. The room smelled of bleach and fresh linens, clean, but forgotten. Perfect. She flicked on the light, locked the door behind her, and set the puppy gently down on a stack of folded towels. It whimpered softly but didn't struggle. Those eyes, wide and trusting, stayed locked on her. With hands still shaking from cold and adrenaline, Emily got to work. She pulled sterile water from the shelf and carefully cleaned the dirt and dried blood from the puppy's fur. Mud and grime turned the clear water cloudy within seconds. Every time she touched the puppy's wounded leg, it whimpered. So she worked even more gently, whispering soothing words. "You're okay, little guy. You're safe now. I promise." She found antiseptic ointment and dabbed it on the scrapes along its belly and paws. The right front leg was the worst, swollen, badly twisted, probably fractured, maybe worse. She rigged a tiny splint using tongue depressors and medical tape, cursing herself for not having proper supplies for animals. But it was better than nothing. The puppy whimpered once more, then leaned heavily against her wrist. Relief, gratitude, trust. It hit Emily like a punch to the chest. To keep it warm, Emily built a tiny bed from clean towels, layering them into a makeshift nest. The puppy curled up immediately, shivering less now. Watching it, something inside Emily cracked open, a mixture of sadness, anger, and fierce protectiveness she hadn't felt in years. This little creature had been left alone in the world, beaten down, ignored, abandoned, and somehow, it still had enough heart left to trust her. Realizing she needed help, Emily pulled out her phone and shot a quick text to her best friend, Rachel. "Emily, emergency. Hurt puppy. Need you. Back exit supply room. Please hurry." Rachel worked with a local animal rescue group. If anyone could get this little soul the help it needed, officially, it was her. Minutes passed. Emily kept checking the hallway through the narrow supply room window. Empty. Silent. She dared to hope she might just pull this off. Just hold on a little longer, she told herself. Rachel's coming. You're doing the right thing. The puppy's breathing evened out. Its tiny chest rose and fell against the towels. Eyes closed. Safe for the first time in who knew how long. Emily let herself breathe too. Maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. And then, it all fell apart. Without warning, the supply room door slammed open so hard it bounced off the wall. Emily jumped to her feet, heart hammering. Standing in the doorway, silhouetted by the harsh hallway lights, was Dr. Allen, and he looked furious. His cold, calculating gaze swept the room, from the scattered medical supplies to the bleeding puppy curled in a bed of hospital linens, and locked onto Emily like a laser. The room crackled with tension. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he barked. His voice was sharp enough to cut glass. Emily opened her mouth, scrambling for words. "It's hurt. It needed help. I couldn't just leave it." "You brought a stray animal into a sterile medical facility," he roared, stepping closer. "Do you have any idea how many protocols you violated?" Emily tried again, her voice cracking under the weight of the moment. "No patients are involved. I used a supply room. I was careful. I called someone to pick it up. It's only temporary." Dr. Allen wasn't listening. He wasn't hearing anything but the word liability screaming in his brain. His face twisted in anger. "You compromised hospital safety," he snapped. "You endangered patients. You broke protocol. You're done here." The words hit Emily like a slap. "You're firing me," she whispered. "I'm terminating you," he said coldly. "Effective immediately. Pack your things. Security will escort you out." Just like that. No meeting. No second chances. No chance to explain. It was over. Emily stood frozen for a moment, disbelief washing over her like ice water. All those years, the long nights, the double shifts, the missed holidays, the sacrifices, meant nothing. All erased by one act of kindness. She knelt down, carefully scooped the puppy back into her arms, and clutched it tight against her chest. Security arrived minutes later. Wordlessly, the guards escorted her through the empty, echoing halls of the hospital she had once called home, past the rooms she had saved lives in, past the people she had fought for, past everything. At her locker, Emily packed in silence. Her fingers moved mechanically, shoving belongings into a duffel bag, her stethoscope, her coffee mug, a few photos of patients who had survived against impossible odds. Tears blurred her vision, but she refused to cry in front of them. She would not give Dr. Allen that satisfaction. Puppy tucked inside her jacket, she pushed through the hospital's front doors into the storm. The cold rain was merciless now, soaking her in seconds. She sat heavily on the curb, the hospital's glow behind her casting long, sad shadows on the wet pavement. The world felt even colder now, even crueler. The puppy shivered against her chest, whimpering softly. Emily buried her face in its fur. She had lost everything. Her job, her career, her identity, all for a single stray puppy. Was it worth it? The question hammered at her, over and over. But when she looked down at the tiny life she held, fragile, broken, but still fighting, the answer was clear. Yes, yes, it was worth it. Every lost thing, every broken piece, every burned bridge. Because some things, some lives, are worth saving at any cost. And just when Emily thought she had lost everything, when it seemed like the world had slammed every door in her face, fate had one more twist in store. A twist she never could have seen coming. One that would change not just her life, but countless others, forever. And then it happened, about 30 minutes later, just as Emily was starting to lose all feeling in her hands and toes from the freezing rain. A car pulled into the hospital parking lot. But this wasn't just any car. It was a sleek, black luxury sedan. The kind that looked completely out of place in this rundown part of the city, especially on a stormy night like this. Its headlights cut through the gloom like twin searchlights, and for a second, Emily had to shield her eyes. She tightened her grip around the tiny puppy hidden in her jacket. Her heart kicked up a notch. Who would be arriving here now? And why did it feel like the night wasn't over yet? The car came to a smooth stop just a few feet away. The engine idled for a moment, a low, purring sound in the cold air. Then the back door swung open. A woman stepped out, tall, elegant, dressed in a dark green coat that seemed too expensive for this kind of weather. She held a large black umbrella, but even so, her silver hair caught the glow of the streetlights like a halo. She moved with purpose, her boots clicking softly against the wet pavement, straight toward Emily, not toward the hospital entrance, not toward the parking deck, toward her. Emily blinked, confused, wiping her sleeve across her wet cheeks. She looked around, almost expecting the woman to be heading to someone else. But no, there was no one else out here. Just her, and the puppy, and now this stranger, striding closer with a look of determination in her eyes. When the woman finally reached her, she lowered her umbrella slightly and smiled, a warm, kind smile that seemed so out of place in the cold, cruel night. "Are you Dr. Carter?" she asked gently. Her voice was soft, but carried an unmistakable authority. Emily hesitated for a split second, caught between fear and hope. "Yes," she managed to whisper, her voice hoarse. The woman nodded, her smile widening just a little. "My name is Evelyn Whitmore," she said. She paused, letting the name settle in the air. It meant nothing to Emily, not yet. "My husband was admitted here last week," Evelyn continued, her eyes never leaving Emily's face. "I was here visiting him, the night you found that puppy." Emily's stomach twisted. Was this it? Was she about to get scolded again? Was this woman another administrator, another wealthy donor furious about hospital contamination? She clutched the puppy tighter under her coat, bracing herself. But then, Evelyn did something unexpected. She smiled even wider, a smile full of warmth, a smile full of something Emily hadn't seen in a long time. Understanding. "I saw you," Evelyn said simply. "I saw you stop your car in the rain. I saw you pick up that little soul like it mattered more than your own comfort, your own safety." She paused, her voice catching slightly, as if holding back her own emotions. "And I think," she said softly, "you did the right thing." Emily's knees nearly buckled. For a second, she just stared at Evelyn, the world spinning. The right thing? No one had said those words to her tonight. No one had even hinted she might not be a reckless fool. And now this stranger, this woman, was standing in front of her, saying them like they were obvious. "I believe," Evelyn continued, her voice steady again, "that the world needs more people like you, Dr. Carter." She glanced down at the puppy peeking from Emily's jacket, its tiny face barely visible. "And I believe that when you risk everything for compassion, you deserve more than punishment." Emily swallowed hard, emotion rising in her throat. The rain blurred everything, but this time it wasn't just rain on her face. It was tears too, real raw tears, the kind you can't fight back, the kind you shouldn't. And then Evelyn said something Emily would never, ever forget, words that would echo in her heart for the rest of her life. "I run the largest private animal hospital in the city," Evelyn said calmly, like she was mentioning the weather. She smiled again, a secret, knowing smile. "And for the past few months, we've been looking for someone to lead our new emergency rescue program." She paused, letting the words sink in. "Someone with heart, someone who doesn't turn away when it's inconvenient, someone exactly like you." Emily blinked, stunned. She couldn't have heard right. Was this real? Was this actually happening? Evelyn laughed softly at her stunned expression. "Full salary," she said, ticking the points off on her fingers. "Full medical benefits, full creative freedom, all the support you'll need." She tilted her head slightly. "And most importantly," she said, "you can save as many lives as you want, without ever worrying about getting fired for being kind." For a long, heart-stopping moment, Emily couldn't breathe. Her brain tried to catch up with the words. Animal hospital, emergency rescue, saving lives, freedom. She looked down at the puppy, the tiny creature that had cost her everything she thought she cared about. And suddenly, it didn't feel like a loss at all. It felt like a doorway, a brand new beginning she never even knew she needed. The puppy stirred in her jacket, letting out a tiny sigh that made Emily's heart ache. She realized, in that moment, that she had already named him without even thinking about it. Lucky, because somehow, against all odds, both of them had gotten lucky tonight. Emily's hands shook as she pressed Lucky closer to her chest. 1,000 doubts and fears and old loyalties fought inside her for a second, but they didn't stand a chance against the truth. The truth was standing right in front of her, smiling, offering her not just a job, but a purpose, a family, a future. "Yes," Emily whispered, her voice thick with tears. "Yes, I'm interested." Evelyn's face lit up. "Good," she said simply. She pulled a business card from her coat pocket and pressed it into Emily's free hand. "Take tonight to rest," she said. "Tomorrow morning, come by. We'll get started on building something extraordinary." As Evelyn turned to leave, she hesitated. She glanced back over her shoulder with a twinkle in her eye. "Oh, and Dr. Carter?" Emily looked up, still clutching the business card like a lifeline. "Bring Lucky," Evelyn said, nodding toward the puppy. "He's already part of the team." Emily laughed, a choked, watery laugh that broke free from somewhere deep inside her. It was the first real laugh she'd had in what felt like years. She clutched Lucky tighter and watched as Evelyn disappeared into the waiting car, the taillights cutting twin red paths through the mist. As the car pulled away, Emily sat there in the rain a little longer, her heart finally starting to thaw. The hospital building behind her loomed like a grave, but ahead of her was something brighter, something bigger, something better. It was funny, she thought, how quickly life could change. One moment you're losing everything you thought mattered, and the next, you're gaining everything you never knew you needed. All because you chose kindness, all because you chose to stop, to care, to save. She looked down at Lucky, who blinked up at her with sleepy eyes, completely trusting. "Looks like we're both getting a second chance," Emily whispered. Lucky yawned and snuggled deeper into her jacket. Emily smiled through her tears. For the first time in a long, long time, she felt alive again. And she knew, deep in her soul, that this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Today, Dr. Emily Carter is not just a doctor. She's something far more rare, something the world desperately needs, but hardly ever gets to see. A healer of all lives, not just the human ones. Under her leadership, Evelyn Whitmore's private hospital became more than just a medical center for animals. It became a beacon, a sanctuary, a place where the broken, the abandoned, the forgotten souls of the city found not just treatment, but hope. It didn't happen overnight. No true miracle ever does. At first, the project was small, just a few emergency rescues a week, injured stray dogs, abandoned kittens left in alleys, wild birds with broken wings. Each case came in like a tiny battle cry for compassion, and Emily answered every single one. Word spread quickly, first among the rescue groups, then among the local shelters, and then, somehow, across the entire city. Whenever someone found a hurt animal with nowhere to go, they didn't call animal control. They didn't give up. They called Emily. She built her team carefully, choosing not just skilled vets, but people who felt the work the way she did, deep in their bones. People who saw every pair of frightened eyes not as a burden, but as a sacred trust. People who knew what it meant to stand in the rain for a creature that couldn't even say thank you. Under her care, the hospital expanded. What was once a standard clinic now had a 24/7 trauma center for critical rescues, a physical therapy pool for recovering animals, a foster care wing for those awaiting adoption, a wildlife rehabilitation unit for injured wild animals. Emily was everywhere at once, it seemed, checking on surgeries, teaching young volunteers, whispering soothing words to trembling patients, always moving, always healing. And through it all, through every success, every heartbreak, every long night spent on the cold floor beside a struggling animal, one constant remained. Lucky, the little puppy, who had started it all, stayed right by her side. At first, he was small enough to fit into her jacket pocket, poking his curious nose out to sniff the world. Then, as months turned into years, Lucky grew into a sleek, strong dog with eyes full of mischief and a heart bursting with love. He became the hospital's unofficial mascot, the first face every rescued animal saw when they arrived, a wagging tail, a warm welcome, a silent promise that they were safe now. Children who came to visit would pet Lucky for courage. Elderly patients waiting for news would smile at him through their tears. And every night, no matter how late Emily worked, Lucky was there, waiting patiently, his head resting on her foot, his loyalty unwavering. Sometimes, when Emily stood at the hospital's second-floor window, looking out over the garden, she would watch Lucky racing across the grass, tongue lolling out, ears flapping like flags, completely free, completely joyful, and she would think, sometimes, losing everything is just the world clearing the way for something better. It was a truth she carried in her bones now, a truth she wished she could pass along to every soul who found themselves standing in the rain, feeling like their world was falling apart, because it did feel that way sometimes. The night she was fired, Emily had truly believed her life was over, her dreams shattered, her future stolen. But what she couldn't see then, what none of us can ever see when we're standing in the middle of our worst moments, was that sometimes the storm isn't destroying your life. It's clearing it, clearing away the things you thought you needed, making space for the things you were truly meant for. It's so easy to get scared when life throws you into the storm, so easy to think you made a mistake, that you should have played it safe, that following your heart cost you too much. Emily had thought all those things, sitting on the curb that night, soaked and humiliated and heartbroken. She had almost convinced herself she was a fool, almost, but she hadn't walked away from that puppy. And because of that one choice, that one stubborn refusal to abandon compassion, her entire life had transformed. Today, thousands of animals owe their lives to that one decision. Thousands of families have been made whole by the creatures they adopted from Emily's hospital. Thousands of hearts, human and animal alike, have been healed because one woman chose kindness, even when it cost her everything. And kindness, real kindness, always finds a way back to you. Maybe not immediately, maybe not easily, but it always does. It finds you when you're sitting on the curb in the rain, convinced your best days are behind you. It finds you in the gentle brush of fur against your hand, in the soft nudge of a cold nose at your side, in the laughter of a child meeting their first puppy, in the quiet gratitude of an old dog learning, finally, that he is safe. It finds you in the ways you never expected, in the moments you almost gave up, in the corners of the world you thought were too dark to be redeemed. It finds you, and when it does, it doesn't just heal you, it changes you. It makes you braver, it makes you softer, it makes you stronger, and it reminds you always that the world is not just made of cruelty and indifference. It is also made of people like Emily Carter, people who stop, people who care, people who save. Maybe you won't be called to make the same choice Emily did. Maybe your storm will look different. Maybe your puppy in the rain will be something else entirely. A stranger needing help, a friend needing forgiveness, a dream needing one more chance. But when that moment comes, and it will come, I hope you remember this story. I hope you remember that kindness is never wasted, that courage is never foolish, that even when it costs you, especially when it costs you, it's worth it, because sometimes the universe is just waiting to see if you're brave enough to hold on through the storm, waiting to see if you'll choose compassion when it's the hardest thing to choose, waiting to see if you'll trust the impossible truth that sometimes losing everything is just making room for something better. And if you do, if you trust that, if you hold on long enough, you'll find that the world has been holding its breath, waiting to give you back more than you ever dreamed. More love, more purpose, more life. Emily Carter didn't just save a puppy that night, she saved herself. And in doing so, she built a life more beautiful than she ever thought possible. All because she chose kindness, all because she chose love, all because when the world demanded she turn away, she chose to stay. And so can you. Subscribe for more true stories that prove kindness always wins.